In his performance of Fix You, Jacob Collier sets up his final modulation from the key of G back to our home key of E major. But just when you start to feel secure in the end of the song, with the tempo in full retardando, Jacob singing the resolution of a long suspended chord, the harmony unexpectedly modulates down to the key of D flat.
I will try to fix you.
I don't know about you, but that modulation to D flat was really unexpected to me. Traditionally we would use something like a pivot chord to move from one key to the next. That pivot chord anticipates the key change and kind of guides our ears through it gracefully. For example, in the second verse of this song, Jacob uses a B7 chord, the 5 in E major, to pivot us between E flat and E. But a common tone modulation doesn't prepare you for the change, it just happens in an instant. Both types of modulations are exciting, but in their own ways. The pivot chord modulation excites you by building up this anticipation, and then it pulls you into that new key. It's like you as the listener were given a map, and you can see your destination as it's coming. But the common tone modulation creates a reactionary response. It kind of knocks you off balance. The excitement you get comes from the shock of arriving someplace you didn't expect, and then looking back trying to figure out, how did I end up here? The song Fix You was originally written by Chris Martin, the singer of Coldplay. It was written for his future wife, Gwyneth Paltrow. It deals with the role of true love in helping somebody through a time of need. In 2015, Gwyneth Paltrow did an interview with Howard Stern where she said that Fix You was Chris's way of trying to put her back together after the death of her father. Jacob was invited to perform a song for the There With Care live-streaming charity event. If you're not familiar with There With Care, they're an amazing organization that provides support to children going through critical illness. And in my observation, Jacob's arrangement of Fix You parallels the journey that those children are going on. But let's come back to that in a minute. If you've listened to other arrangements by Jacob, you'd kind of expect this pre-produced, wild reharmonizations, thick chromatic chord movements, lots of voices. For example, check out this arrangement that he did of the theme from the Flintstones.
Now it's time to meet the Flintstones. Flintstones, meet the Flintstones. The modern Stone Age family.
Jacob won a Grammy for that, for arranging the theme song to the Flintstones. I also really like his arrangement of Fascinating Rhythm by George Gershwin.
Fascinating rhythm, you got me on the go. Fascinating rhythm, I'm on a quiver. What a mess you're making, the neighbors want to know why am I wishing it just like a flavor, like a flavor.
But with Fix You, Jacob took a more naked approach, less fanciful, with the exception of just a few Jacobian moments, and yeah, that's what he calls them. Jacob sticks to the original chord structure from the Coldplay song. The song is in E flat, and it really only uses 4 pop song chords, the 1, the minor 3, the minor 6, and the 5. When you move into the chorus, it kind of focuses around the 4 chord, and then lands on a 5 chord, which just brings you back home to the verse. The song goes through a number of modulations. The first 2 of these are pivot chord modulations. The first one we already talked about a little bit. It goes from E flat to E flat major, and it uses that B flat 7 dominant chord to pivot. Later in the song, he pivots upward a minor 3rd to the key of G major.
Your bones and I will fix it.
This key change is a really big moment. It moves Jacob's voice near the top of his range. It's driving us to the climax of the song, and once we get there and we start to come off the high point, Jacob kind of goes off into Jacob land for a few minutes. He explores some various harmonic ideas, he improvises harmonically, but eventually he settles back in our key of E. These modulations serve an important purpose, which is not really evident to us as a listener yet. Jacob has set the expectation with us that this is a familiar pop song using pop song techniques. It's done solo, live, in a performance setting. This is not a wild and fanciful arrangement. While his performance is nothing short of breathtaking, the form of the song is largely comfortable and predictable to us. I believe that Jacob is setting this expectation up on purpose. It's deliberate so that he can surprise us by breaking away from it. As we're coming down off the climax of the song, we've settled back in the key of E major, our tempo is calming a little bit, the dynamics are softening, the song is clearly approaching its end. At this point, Jacob plays an extended sus4 chord, and that sus4 is just begging for a resolution back to the 1 chord, the E major chord. The melody moves from the sus4 to the G sharp, the 3rd of E major. But it's in this moment when the melody finally lands on that G sharp that we're given a surprise. We're expecting that G sharp to be the 3rd of our 1 chord E major, but Jacob actually plays D flat major. The G sharp melody note landed exactly where we expected it to, but in an instant, without any preparation or warning, the harmony around it changed to D flat major. Our G sharp has taken on a new identity. It's no longer the 3rd of E major, it's now A flat, the 5th of D flat. It's as if it took off its Mission Impossible mask, and it revealed who it really was all along. Not the 3rd of E, but the 5th of D flat. The key of E major and D flat major have only one thing in common, and that is this note, this G sharp note. Now we might call it A flat in the other key, but that note is in common between the two keys, and that's why we call this a common tone modulation. It's only now at this point that Jacob holds out that G sharp, the common melody note, and he brings all the rest of the harmony together and settles it finally in the key of D flat.
I will try to fix you.
I'm not sure if Jacob intended this or not, but to me the key change symbolizes all the work that There With Care is doing. A traditional song format would have you leave home and then come back to home safely, but that's not true for these children who are going through a pretty difficult medical journey. If they were to end up back where they started, it would be a pretty depressing and uninspiring place to be. I believe Jacob recognized this and chose to uplift the end of the song because of it. It's as if the character in our story has changed. They found their new self, and they're starting in the next phase of their life and the new adventures yet to come. If you like what I do here, I'd love to have you back for future videos. And the way you do that is you hit the like button and the subscribe button, and YouTube will connect us again in the future. And while you're waiting for that to happen, check out this video I did on Ray Charles.